in 1939. And in the early years of the Second World War, many people believed that the German war machine was unstoppable as German forces swept across Europe with incredible speed and precision, supported by innovative tactics, advanced machinery, and a highly disciplined military structure. Yet what began as a display of overwhelming strength would soon why Germany's war machine collapsed so fast into one of the most dramatic collapses in modern history. And this collapse did not happen overnight, but through a chain of strategic miscalculations, impossible ambitions, mounting pressures, and the harsh reality of fighting multiple enemies at once. To understand why Germany's war machine collapsed so fast, we must step into the heart of the conflict, tracing the path from confident victories to chaotic defeat and uncovering the hidden weaknesses that slowly crushed the German engine of war. Even while it appeared powerfully unstoppable at first, Germany entered the war with a bold strategy built on speed, surprise, and concentrated force, a tactic the world came to know as blitzkrieg. This lightning war relied on fast armored divisions, precise coordination between tanks, infantry, and aircraft, and the rapid destruction of enemy lines before they could properly organize. Against such a furious assault, Germany achieved shocking victories in Poland, France, Belgium, Norway, and parts of the Balkans. The world watched in disbelief as older military powers crumbled so quickly, and it seemed that the German formula for victory would continue without resistance. But behind this dazzling military success lay deeper structural problems that would reveal themselves once Germany tried to fight a long war across vast territories with fewer resources than its enemies. Germany had built its strategy around short campaigns, fast wins, and quick surrenders. The war machine was designed for speed, not endurance. It was like a powerful sports car that performed brilliantly on short tracks, but was never meant for a long, exhausting journey across an unforgiving landscape. One major reason for the rapid collapse was the overextension of German forces. After early victories, German leaders believed they could defeat any enemy, and so they continued expanding into new territories without securing the resources needed to sustain such expansion. Instead of consolidating their gains, they stretched their armies thinner and thinner, placing enormous pressure on supply lines and command structures. And nowhere was this more visible than in the invasion of the Soviet Union. In 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion force in history, expecting a quick victory over the Soviet Union. The plan assumed the Soviet system would collapse under the shock of blitzkrieg, but the opposite happened. The Soviet Union absorbed the initial blows, retreated strategically, and then pushed back with overwhelming manpower, harsh winter conditions, and vast industrial capability that continued to grow stronger even while German forces weakened. Germany had not prepared for a long war on the Eastern Front, nor for the brutal winter that froze weapons, vehicles, and soldiers, while supply lines stretched hundreds of miles across hostile territory. The German economy also struggled because it was never fully mobilized for total war. Early in the conflict, Germany relied on rapid victories instead of long-term production planning. Its factories were not organized for sustained mass production, and many industries still operated in peacetime patterns, while the Allied powers, especially the United States and the Soviet Union, rapidly expanded their industrial capacity, producing tanks, aircraft, ammunition, and vehicles in numbers Germany could not match. And once Germany fell behind in industrial output, the war machine could no longer replace its losses at the same pace, and every destroyed tank, every lost aircraft, every exhausted soldier pushed Germany closer to collapse. Another key factor was the failure of German logistics. The miracle of blitzkrieg relied on fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and precise coordination. But as the war expanded, Germany faced fuel shortages that grew worse each year. The war machine was powerful, but it was also hungry, and without fuel it could not move, without ammunition it could not fight, without spare parts it could not sustain its momentum. German trucks broke down frequently, tanks required constant maintenance, and trains were often Sabotaged or overwhelmed by the growing demands of distant fronts, no amount of bravery or tactical skill could overcome the fundamental limits of supply, and logistics. Leadership decisions also played a major role in the collapse. Adolf Hitler increasingly took direct control of military decisions, overriding experienced generals, ignoring strategic realities, and refusing to allow tactical retreats even when necessary. This resulted in entire armies being trapped, surrounded, and destroyed because they were ordered to hold positions at all costs. Many of these losses could have been avoided, but rigid leadership and unrealistic expectations created tragedies that weakened the war machine beyond repair. Germany also faced the crushing power of a multi-front war. While battling the Soviet Union in the East, they also faced growing pressure in North Africa, in Italy, and eventually in France. When the Allies launched massive invasions, German forces had to divide their strength across thousands of miles, reducing the effectiveness of their armies and weakening their ability to respond with concentrated force. The early success of blitzkrieg depended on focusing power in one direction, but soon Germany had to fight in every direction at once. Something no nation could sustain. Air superiority also shifted dramatically as the war progressed. At the start, German aircraft were dominant, but as Allied production surged, Germany found itself overwhelmed by thousands of enemy planes that bombed factories, ammunition plants, fuel refineries, railways, and cities, shrinking Germany's industrial power day by day. Without factories, the war machine could not produce weapons. Without fuel, the tanks could not roll. Without transportation networks, the supplies could not reach the front, collapsing the military system from the inside out. Internal resistance and lack of cooperation from occupied territories also weakened Germany. Millions of people resisted German control, sabotaging supply lines, spreading misinformation, and creating constant instability that forced Germany to allocate soldiers to maintain order instead of sending them to the front. Entire populations worked against the occupying forces, draining German resources and morale. Technological overcomplication added to the downfall. While Allies focused on producing simple, reliable equipment, Germany invested heavily in complex weapons that were powerful but difficult to maintain, expensive to produce, and impossible to build in large numbers. While the Allies produced thousands of reliable tanks, Germany built smaller numbers of advanced machines that often broke down or lacked fuel for long operations. The imbalance grew worse with each passing year. By 1944, the German war machine was collapsing under the weight of multiple pressures: dwindling manpower, fuel shortages, destroyed factories, shattered logistics, constant bombardment, and the unstoppable advance of Allied armies from both east and west. The once formidable machine was now fighting defensively, trying to survive each day with fewer resources and less hope. Germany no longer controlled the pace of the war, and every battle turned into a struggle for survival rather than victory. The final collapse came rapidly because the structure holding the war machine together had been weakened for years. When the Allies broke through German defenses, the exhausted armies began retreating across all fronts, unable to regroup or mount effective counterattacks. The fall was not slow but swift, because the machine had already been hollowed out internally long before the final battles. It was like a giant fortress that looked strong from the outside, but had decayed within, and when the pressure increased, the entire structure fell apart. In the end, Germany's war machine collapsed so fast because it was built for short, sharp wars, not for a global conflict against powerful industrial enemies. It was a machine designed for speed, not endurance, built on ambition more than realistic strategy, reliant on early victories instead of long-term planning. Once the early momentum was lost, the weaknesses slowly rose to the surface, revealing a system that could not survive prolonged conflict. Limited resources, flawed leadership, impossible objectives, and overwhelming opposition brought an end to what once appeared to be an unstoppable force. The collapse of Germany's war machine remains one of the most dramatic lessons in military history, a reminder that no force no matter how powerful at the beginning, can survive without strategy, stability, logistics, industry, and the ability to adapt to the changing demands of war. And so the machine that shook Europe fell apart under the combined weight of its own mistakes and the